All right, YouTube, it is Mr. Mean coming at you this Saturday afternoon. I don't even know what time it is, but on the video phone, the newfangled interwebs, I have Mr. Stephen Turner, the rock star, the god of gods, the cornucopia of role-playing du jour. And I'd like to say, my friend, Mr. Stephen, take it away, sir.
Hi, John. Nice to be here.
All right. So this is, I think you said we got about an hour, yeah?
Yeah, roughly, yes.
All right. So you tell me when we have to wrap it up, because I never know when to shut up. So first and foremost, I want to tell you, I got this in the mail the other day. And It's beautiful, sir. Thank you. Now, I did buy this, but I did it to support Chivalry and Sorcery. And first of all, tell people who you work for.
Well, I've got a number of businesses. My main job is as an accountant with my own accountancy business. But from gaming perspective, I'm the CEO of Britannia Game Designs and the design head of Chivalry and Sorcery, our main product line.
The crowd goes wild. Yes, Chivalry and Sorcery 5th edition, correct?
Correct, yes.
Not to be confused with that other 5th edition role-playing game that has orcs and goblins and wizards and stuff in it. That one's, I mean, it's a good game, but it's not on the level.
There are some influences of earlier editions of CNS that may have crept in.
You think? So how long have you been the head honcho of Britannia Games?
Since we formed the company in 1997.
So you've been around for a minute.
Been around, yes.
Yeah, it's awesome. I had the pleasure of playing in 2 games with you where we were trying to debunk that Chivalry and Sorcery could not do high fantasy. And I had the pleasure of playing a wizard, Barnabas Magnus. And I'm going to tell you, I had so much fun. You, sir, run an awesome, fantastic game.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it was a hoot. It was a blast. So, and people who know, CNS has been around for a long time. And you've taken over the reins and you've made it your own. Who are some of your principal cohorts in crime? The people that have brought this to life?
The design team that we have consists of Andy Staples, Colin Spears, Francis Tiffany, David Blewett, and Andrew Cowley. Okay. Of those, the principal writers have been Francis and Andrew Cowley. A lot of some of the house rules that Andy Staples had, and they went into 5th edition. But from a gaming perspective, Andy Cowley has probably been the longest person I've known. I mean, we started gaming 1979, 1980.
Wow.
And a lot of campaign world that we published for CNS, Marrakesh, that came around primarily from a 6-month period where I was unemployed back in 81, 82. So was Andy. And we would spend probably 10 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week gaming. And we should have been looking for work.
Well, I mean, you got to have priorities, right? So, and just to remind people, what small little witch-infested town do you live in England?
I live in Dudley, which is a medieval town. I look out the window and see a castle that goes back to 1080. We have a 12th century priory just down the road that we can have a wander around the ruins of.
Nice. So a lot of influence there for CNS, I assume.
Oh yes,
yeah.
So you go along and you find a 10-foot wide corridor marked, and you think yeah, you can't do three breaths down a 10-foot corridor.
So, and the reason I asked that is because we're getting a little stutter and a little video lag and audio lag, and that's just because you're across the pond and it's Saturday afternoon. Everybody's streaming and downloading on their Xbox. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just the nature of the beast. So I have a staple of questions that I like to ask all my guests. Some people call them victims. I'll let you decide, but. My favorite one is you're on an airplane, it's going down, it's going to crash. You will be trapped for all eternity on a small island, and you can only bring one RPG with you. What RPG is that?
It's going to be CNS. It's got everything in it.
All right. So, and then the other big question that I always like to ask is, out of all the role-playing games, because you're up there in age like me. We're not spring chickens anymore. We've seen a lot of games. What's the one game that you've looked at? Can be new, can be old, can be minor, can be major. What's the one game that you say to yourself, man, I wish I would have wrote that?
Oh. At this moment in time, probably... Oh, that's a toughie. The Dark Eye.
I wonder whose influence that came from. Let's see. Wait. That's how close it is. It's always nearby. That's awesome. I hope you're enjoying reading it.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at the date when it was first written, and it came after first and second edition CNS, and I can see some of the things in first and second edition CNS that may have influenced the Dark Eye.
Yeah, well, remember it was over there in Europe. This is Germany's D&D. So yeah, it's almost as old as the oldest role playing game. Yeah. So it's up there in the ranks, and it's got over 30 years of history, and. Yeah. I kind of like CNS. What I really like is that it's been influenced by its players. And that's where my love of it comes from, is that the players have a say in the world, and they're really...
I think the design team behind CNS 5 would be reasonably gutted if fans weren't house ruling it.
Right, exactly. Now, and for those that don't know, and I'm a grognard, I remember, figuring out Thaco. So there is no argument that CNS is crunchy. I mean, let's get that out of the way. It's a crunchy game. There are so many acronyms in that game, it'll make your head spin. But when you're done with character creation, when you close the book and you say, I have a finished character, you're done. Then it's just simple gameplay. It's percentages and plus and minus. Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
And I gotta say, for someone who never really played it, you can tell by the live play. I dived right in as a newbie, and I mean, I had so much fun. The spells made sense. They were potent. If I remember correctly, I had poor Andy collapse on. I think I tried to cast a sleep spell on the bad guy, and I fumbled really bad and wind up putting Andy's priest to sleep. And he collapsed on the bad guy. On Andrew Merrington, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've had some players come to us and say, is it right that a beginning mage can be so powerful? And yes, we've never said that CNS is balanced.
Right. Right? And if you can fling a fireball, you know what else flings fireballs? Dragons. You know what else? Catapults. You're powerful. Get over it. But with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Yeah. But on the flip side, we've also said that there are maximum chance of success. And in the game I run on a Saturday, mage, really powerful, but he fails perhaps one in every 12 spell castings because of his high rolls.
Right. Well, and I mean, it's a percentage-based system, right? So, you're going to have that chance of failure no matter how good you are, and that's what I like about it. And the art in the book is very distinct. It's very different. The Lycanthrope book, or Lycanthropy, however you want to say it, is probably my favorite. I love the werewolf and the vampires. The goblin and orcs and trolls, that's nice because it's hardback, and I'm a sucker for hardback. But the art, you guys took like this almost like Renaissance watercolor, turn, with the art, and I really, really like some of it. Is it some of it goofy? Sure. It's not perfect. There's no book that gets a perfect one. Maybe Degenesis by Six More Vodka, but that's on a whole nother level as far as art. Those guys are professional art people.
I think it's to do with how we do our art management. That
it's brilliant.
What we tend to do is give the text of the product to the art and say, go through here, find something that captures your imagination that you want to illustrate.
Well, they did a great job of it.
We let the artists try to let the artists have free reign.
Yeah,
because they're the ones with the skills.
And your maps. Oh my God, I love the maps. There's a couple, for those that don't know, if you don't have the orcs, goblins, and troll, there's a couple adventures in here, and there's some really topographical type maps, very easily laid out, can be used with any kind of terrain if you wanted to use miniatures, or you can print out your own. It really well done, man. I mean, this is a campaign supplement as far as I'm concerned. This is an adventure book all in one. I thought you knocked it out of the park with this. I really did. I mean, because goblins can be the adversaries, they can be the good guys. I can see running this with a group of goblin adventurers and letting them take on the PCs as the bad guys. And it would make total sense, and it would work.
Yeah. Well, we have Andy Cowley to thank for the maps and quite a fair
amazing
bit of the
job.
writing.
If I had a chance to hug him, I would.
Yeah, a lot of that stems from when back in the 80s, where we used to have a little competition to see who could do the best maps.
He obviously won.
Well, it got to the point where I was doing maps where I was putting planks with all the knots in, the jetties.
Yeah.
And I think so. You go that far, and then you have to come back a little bit.
All right, so going way back in the time machine, and I know it's hard to remember that far back because dinosaurs still roamed the earth. Did you start with D&D? Was that your first role playing game?
First role playing game was AD&D First Edition.
Right, and it bit you. You fell in love.
Well, it was more a case of a friend introduced us to this game. One of my other friends, Steve Bettany, and I, we were actually war gamers.
Of course.
And we were in the process of creating a fantasy war game campaign. And another friend introduced us, said his brothers at university had started playing this game. And we tried it. And my first experience was, all right, so I'll have 20 fighters, 3 mages, a couple of clerics, and a couple of thieves. Right, that's what I've got. What's everybody else taking?
Wait, that's not how it works.
No.
Yeah. You're being greedy.
Yeah.
So
and it was like so we first game, rolled up a character strict 3d6 per attribute, no switching around, no changing. What have you rolled? Oh, you can be a cleric. Fine. And then no DM's guide, so no idea of what you put on a level. Characters died fairly quickly, until the guy who'd introduced us to the game, his character died, and he came out with the immortal words, "I'll have him resurrected." And we all look at him and say, "You what?
Why didn't you tell us about this?"
Yes.
Yes. Oh, those GMs. Yeah, we know those.
Yeah. As we looked at the map with all these beautifully drawn mausoleums around the edge
of all the previous characters.
Yeah.
So when you're not GMing CNS, because I know you run a regular ongoing game, What games do you like to play? If so, let's take CNS off the board. We know obviously you love that. What role playing games do you like to play when you can't play CNS?
Outside of the pandemic, I was enjoying playing Shadows of Esteran.
Awesome game.
I do like the Ubiquity system, especially Leagues of Gentlemen.
Yes.
And I do have such a fondness for Harn and Harn Master.
Yeah, great game.
So just glancing across at my shelves, I would love to play Cthulhu, Call of Cthulhu. But again, it's fine. My group just don't enjoy the sort of the horror aspects.
Right. I'm in the same boat. It's not for me. So I totally some genre like I'm a veteran of Desert Storm and Grenada. So being in active combat, it's funny. I don't like games that focus on like modern day warfare because it's too close to home. But like fantasy or super sci-fi or superheroes, I have no problem with those genres. But horror, I'll play in a horror game if somebody wants to run it. And I believe one of my very good friends, Brian Isaacoff. He is a fantastic Call of Cthulhu GM. So I have to put you two in touch so you could play.
Yeah, one of friends from the games club I set up, he's a really good Call of Cthulhu referee, and I know he'll run a game where none of the characters lost any sanity. But the players came out of that game thinking what the hell had been going on.
Yeah. I ran a Call of Cthulhu game one time, and I made the mistake of giving them a book, a very bad book. And they all read it, and so they all went insane, and they all murdered each other. It was a lot of fun, and thus ended my Call of Cthulhu campaign and GMing. They pulled my card. They said, "You can't run this game anymore."
So. I mean, I've had fun running through the Breach, the Malifaux role-playing game.
Wonderful game. We were talking. We were talking online about it. And did you pick up the second edition, the hardback?
It's winging its way. Couldn't get it in the UK, but it's winging its way from the States.
Okay. Well, if you ever get stuck for something, let me know. I can always send it to you, and we'll make it happen. So don't.
Yeah, the last game of Through the Breach I ran, I actually had one of the characters fall into the situation where the gremlins took to him, and he ended up marrying one of the female gremlins.
Nice. Oh, and I love my wife is Cajun. My wife is from the south of the United States, little state called Louisiana. You've probably heard of it, where the men are men and the sheep are nervous. And
sounds like Wales.
yeah, pretty much about the same. And I love the Goblin faction, the Bayou Goblins, because they are just a bunch of rednecks, whiskey swilling, riding pigs that explode. And the miniatures game is phenomenal. If you ever get a chance to play it, I highly recommend. But the next,
unfortunately, yes, I have too many miniatures.
The next Through the Breach game you run, though, I want in because I never get to play it, just because nobody around here wants to play it.
Another one which I was playing in, which I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it, was Slay.
I just ran that a couple weeks ago. I got my Kickstarter reward. Well,
I'm interested to see how second edition works, because the game I was playing in was actually Savage Worlds Slay.
Yes, there's a very good riff out there of it for Savage Worlds, and it's really well done.
When it first came out, it was not my cup of tea.
Oh no, the mechanics were horrible.
Even the setting, I ignored it for so long.
Yeah.
Until literally last quarter of 2019, played in the game, and I thought, the penny dropped.
Yeah, it is. It is by far one of my favorite.
I bought into second edition.
Yeah, I just got my Kickstarter rewards a couple weeks ago, and I ran a quick one shot for some players, and they all seem to really like it. So I love the new mechanics. I love the dice mechanic. Where only one die is your success die, the other die is just add. if it's a positive roll, or they subtract if it's a negative roll, which is it's a very neat mechanic. And I'm a big fan of any game that uses something besides D6s. I'm not a huge fan of D6.
I've just got to see if I can recreate my character now, because he had a vibro scythe, and he got the upgrade. So it when he hit something, it blew the wind in, so it just splattered blood everywhere.
Oh, of course. Because remember, Mr. Slay is always watching. Mr. Slayer.
You were on TV. You
24/7, yeah. It's the only thing that's free in Mort.
Yes.
Well, throughout the galaxy. TV is free. For those that don't know Slay Industries, they own everything, and there's these rival corporations that ultimately are still owned by Slay. They just don't know it, and it's a very dystopian sci-fi universe that's a little too close to home, and it's always about the truth, which is a big common theme. One of the things I like, that's cool that you like Slay, because that's kind of considered a more modern game. So I mean, it's been out for many years. But it's a fantastic game, and it's the production quality is.
And Jared is somebody I've known a while.
Yeah, well, next time you talk to him, tell him Mr. Mean wants to interview him. So, because I love his game, I've been a huge fan of Slay, and I was on there. I would get my wife to go on Facebook so I could yell at him and say, "Where's second edition?" Because I don't have a Facebook account. So he's like, who's this crazy person? So, and I've done a review of the original game as well as the new second edition. I wanted to get my hands on Cannibal Sector 1, but it came out at a time where I was financially unstable and I couldn't do it. And now I think it's hard to get. But I'm really happy to see that Jared and those guys are doing well. And the art is phenomenal. For those that don't know, Mr. Slayer's tagline is, if you're a fan of the original version, there was a picture of Mr. Slayer, and underneath it said, "I will give you everything you want. All I ask for is blind obedience." Which is, I think, is just so perfect. It's a great tagline.
I do like Dave Alsop's art as well. He does knock it out.
Yeah, and I love the fact that Mr. Slayer is so vague. Nobody knows what race he is. Nobody knows. You hardly ever see him in public. He's just that omnipotent being that has got his thumb on everything. And it's a great setting. I mean, it's one of my all-time favorites. That to me is one of the early cyberpunk games. Before they knew what cyberpunk was. So it puts the punk in cyber as far as I'm concerned, and great creatures, great design, blah blah blah. But so you like Slay, you like Through the Breach. You've got too many miniatures, which we both know. We've shared pictures. For those that don't know, Steven is very active on the Mr. Mean Speaks. Let's Talk About Games on my Discord channel. So thank you, sir. It's very kind of you to spend some of your free time there, and he promotes his CNS stuff, and he does nice things for the channel, so we do appreciate him. What else is going on? What's new in your life? What's going on?
Trying to help my daughter get her business off the ground.
Plug it. What's her business? What does she do?
She graduated as a fashion designer last year, and she's in the process of getting her website up and running, where she'll be able to do made-to-measure patterns and clothing.
Excellent. So, and we're talking like real world. No, we're not talking like cosplay. We're talking real designer fashion, right? Clothing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I consider that she can design contemporary stuff and commercial rather than catwalk.
Right.
I mean, she can do stuff that would appear on a catwalk, but it's not sort of the way out stuff. This is stuff that you could street wear.
Yeah, functional, real people stuff that doesn't have a $5,000 price tag for the left shoe.
No.
Cool. Well, so design-wise, or let's just say Britannia games-wise, what's coming up in the future? What can we look forward to next? You got a certain Oriental game coming out, I believe.
Yeah, Land of the Rising Sun. We finished the Kickstarter end of Jan, and backers got the PDF on the 12th of March, which we tried to be as quick as we could.
Amazingly fast, and what a beautiful book. Mr. Mean, for those that are curious, was a backer. No free copies here, buddy. I paid for mine, and it's gorgeous. Yeah, I will say I did get some sneak peeks that probably a lot of people didn't get, so thank you very much for that. It's beautiful.
That's currently at the printers along with the new GM screen.
Yes.
That's coming out. We should be getting that back from the printers the end of this month, and then we can ship that out to backers. The adventure book, I'm looking at getting my finger out of my backside and getting the game stats done, so that can go to the printers over the next week or so. We're just waiting for the artwork to come in for the bestiary, and then that will go out.
Excellent.
Then the next one on the list will be the European Folklore Bestiary, which is written again by Graham Davis, who, if people don't know, he was one of the co-creators of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay.
Yeah.
And most of the artwork's in for that now, and starts to just go in, and then that will be ready. We may well kickstart that just so as we can get it out there faster with printing.
Right. Well, and for those that don't know, and you've had your finger, you're an accountant in the industry, and you've run a number of successful, well, at least 2 successful Kickstarters that I know of, maybe more.
Just the 2, yeah.
Yeah. I'm late to the game. I've known your name for years, but I just recently got the pleasure of, talking with you and gaming with you, which is utter joy for me, just so you know. But Kickstarters are not easy. There's this perception that you turn on a Kickstarter and money floods in, and then you go make the book, and then you've got all these people behind their keyboards going, "Where's my shit?" And it's not that simple, is it? You've found out.
No.
Yeah. Now, no. And with that being said, though, your turnaround time is pretty solid. You're doing.
Mainly because I have a wife who kicks me up the arse saying, "Don't go to Kickstarter if your product isn't ready to go."
Yeah.
So it's...
And that's the key right there, isn't it?
There's one of the keys. The other key that I've found is not over-egging the stretch goals.
Yes. Don't put out, what's the old saying our parents used to say? Don't write checks your ass can't cash.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, promising more than you can physically deliver on is a bad, and a lot of Kickstarters fall into that category, unfortunately. So it's nice to see Britannia Games keeping up, and I think Land of the Rising Sun is well on track, correct? Even with the pandemic.
We said that we were aiming to deliver in May to the backers of the physical book, so we're certainly looking at the moment. We're looking at starting to get that shipped out in May to the backers as we've promised. Likewise with CNS, the core rulebook, we ran that as a Kickstarter in July 2019, and we said that the target would be Feb 2020. We got that back from the printers January 2020 and started shipping out in Feb 2020.
Yeah. So relatively quick and positive turnaround times. So
yeah.
And I know
I've backed. I'm not going to say how many I've backed because the wife might see this.
The wife might see. No, she's not. Let's face it. She's not going to look at us.
No, she sees the parcels arriving once a week.
My wife does the same thing. Again? Look, don't you have enough? No, I don't. I need more.
You tell your wife you're investing in her pension fund.
That's well, really what I'm doing is spending her pension fund, but she doesn't need to know. It's semantics, right? Words.
Oh, no. Well, we're not spending the pension fund. we're investing,
Right.
because we all know that role playing books accrue in value.
Right. Yeah, I think they call that in the stock market, in the hedge funds. I think that's kind of where something like that. Trash funds. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not important.
No.
I had a question on the tip of my tongue, and you can see all my miniature painting. The light there is kind of washing everything out there. I apologize. I should have closed the blinds. This was an impromptu because we were actually supposed to record a little bit later tonight, but you got freed up.
I was a bit,
No, and that's fine. I'm not complaining.
It's like we were discussing the idea of a 2-story extension to the house, so I could actually have a games library, and the daughter wants a nice cutting room for a fabric.
Trust me, I've got boxes on either side here that are stacked up to the ceiling, and my wife's like, if you buy one more book, I'm going to kill you. And I'm like, well, I'm on my 19th life. I don't know how many more I've got left, but until she catches up to me, it's an addiction, man. I could be classic cars, I could be motorcycles, which are infinitely more expensive, guns.
I tell the wife it's cheaper than Coke.
That and we mean the kind that goes up your nose, not the bottle. So exactly, right. I am the Tony Montana of role playing games. Say hello to my little friends.
Yes.
So, I totally understand. And dice is my other addiction. I have a lot of dice.
You just tell the wife they breed.
That she doesn't know. She doesn't see them. They're kept in a box in the dark. And every time I go open it, there's more in there. I don't understand. So
you wanted to try. I was once a TSR demonstrator, and I've got a certain quantity of dragon dice in the loft.
Don't go up there. Just don't look. You'll be better if you don't know. So in your 30 plus years of game goodness, you've done quite a few things. You've been RPGA games master?
Yeah, I started. I attended a couple of conventions. It's going to be late 80s.
Yeah.
And from that, it was suggested, oh, you run a good game. Why don't you try writing scenarios for the conventions? So I threw my hat in the ring, and the first adventure I wrote ended up being used as the 1993 UK Gen Con or Ravenloft tournament.
Kudos to you.
Second one, 1994, was the RPGA members only tournament, and it was again in Ravenloft. And I think that got played. I think there was about 20 or 30 GMs for that.
Wow.
I know the first one I wrote actually got approved for use in tournaments in the US as well as UK, or the RPGA. The RPGA was the Role-Playing Game Association set up by TSR for their first foray into organised play.
Yep.
And in the UK, we used to cover all game systems, not just D&D.
Right.
But I became a regional director. One of my remits was to promote the hobby in my region, organised a games convention for that region, and ended up as a demonstrator for TSR, which meant that Sue was one of the first women to demonstrate Dragon Dice in the UK at its launch in Cambridge. She learnt it on the train going over there. She thought she was going for a shopping trip.
You lied.
Well, she got a little press ganged, but she wasn't impressed because they handed these T-shirts out, which have got TSR on the front, but on the back in gold letters 8-inch high, Fantasy Guide.
And she never looked at the back of the T-shirt, did she?
Not until she put it on, and then she sort of noticed everybody else's.
So she literally was shanghaied.
Yeah.
And for those that don't know, Sue is your lovely wife of how many years?
Yes. Yeah, 27 years this year.
And she hasn't found a spot to bury the body yet. Or you're too big and she can't drag you into it.
Yeah, I'm too big, and she
That's what my wife says.
Yeah.
That's why I keep putting on weight, so she can never get rid of me.
Yeah, over the years I have been a bit cruel. When we first started, she started doing all the editing for us. So if anybody has any of the Britannia Games CNS products from 97 to about 2002, everyone was edited and laid out by Sue. And I used to have a system that I would let Sue know as she was partway through laying out. I said, "Oh, by the way, I've booked the printer for this date. We have to get the product to them by this date." And there was an instance with 4th edition where she actually fell asleep at the keyboard.
Oh, you slave driver, you bad man.
Yeah, treat him keen.
And let me guess, you paid her in cookies?
Yes, you could say that.
Not even worthy of peanuts. You got cookies.
Yes.
The crumbs of the cookie, because I mean, our spouses they suffer so much for our hobby, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, Sue would actually be a really stunning role player, but she refuses to play on the basis that when she was editing the books, she wanted to be objective and look at it as a complete newbie and question, what does this mean? And force us to actually explain a little better.
Yeah.
But the one time I have seen a role play, she was phenomenal. It was a UK Gen Con. It was a matched ball. And she ended up sort of starting rumours that weren't actually part of the live action role play.
That's a great way to do it, right? Little dissension among the ranks, nothing wrong with that. So you and your wife have been in this industry for a while now.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have it any other way. It's I love getting to interview guys like you because you're just such a wealth of information and knowledge and history. And I know, just like Andy, you're a huge history buff. So it's I learn so much every time I talk to you guys. It's amazing. I'm gonna go to the drive-through RPG troll that we talked about earlier in the week, and those people are out there, and you've been around the industry long enough to know that you can't please everybody all the time. And it was funny because Steven posted, we were chatting on Discord, and he was like, "Yeah, I got a negative review," and and it's like, happens to me all the time. I get people that post on my channel and say, and I don't pull them down. I leave them up. I don't delete their messages just because. I delete the pornographic ones because those are robots. Those are just bots that are trying to spam. I delete those. But if someone puts up a, geez, you're sitting there talking for 40 minutes about bullshit and you don't ever say anything about the game, 40 minutes of my life wasted, and my retort is, you never have to come back ever again, Yeah. And I think role-playing games are kind of the same way. If you're not quite sure if it's going to be your cup of tea, I think reviews are fine, but reviews are slighted. They really are, because they're you bought the game because you're interested in it in some way, shape, or form. Now, after you read it, you may realize, oh, this is not for me. Lord knows I've got a lot of those, but there was still some redeeming quality or something about the game that I liked. CNS is not the game for me. I would not run a CNS game. It's just not my cup of tea. That being said, I'll gladly sit down and play it any day of the week and twice on Sunday. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to go out and put out a horrible review of it, because that's not fair. It is a good game. And I think there's a lot of role-playing games out there that miss the marketing point of view, to the public, because they don't have anybody that objectively looks at them and says, hey, this is a good game. It may not be the game for you. And that's what I get a beef with reviews. And I went and read that person's review, by the way. where I read the reviews, and I think that I'm pretty sure that was one of them on drive-through. You know, how do I put this politely? Reviews are like assholes. They're opinions. Everybody's got one. You know?
Oh yeah,
And you don't have to be negative. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to be sour. You should still be objective, or try in your best effort to be objective, and just say, this may not be the game for you, but you know, and for God's sakes, in this day and age of previews and PDFs, you know, you can. I don't know too many publishers that if you reached out in the blind, you know, and said, you know, hey, Mr. Turner, I'm new to. I saw your game and I'm not quite sure I'm going to like it. Do you have a quick start? Most publishers would send them the whole damn game as a PDF and say, if you like it, go on drive-through and buy some of the supplements, or go and buy the physical book.
And I think it's sometimes you see there are comments made where they're just itching for you to respond.
Troll bait. Yeah, and that's what that was. Yeah. If I put something negative, you know, then they'll have to respond. And I'm like, the people, I don't want to say guys because I don't want to be gender specific, the individuals that leave like the negative comments on my videos. Hey, I get it. Mr. Mean's not for everybody. I never said I was. I do what I think is fun. This is literally stress relief for me. So it's a thing that I do that brings me a little bit of joy. If you don't like it, you never have to watch me again. And you can even tell YouTube not interested, and they won't show you any more of my videos or videos like mine. So, but there's no need to be on there and become crass or surly, you know, because I mean, I don't come across that way. At least I hope I don't. You know, and when you put it down in words, it's even worse, because the problem with words is, unless you have paragraphs and paragraphs to tell you the intent and the inflection of the words being written, you don't know. You know, because just like in language, if I go, Steven, you're an asshole, but I'm smiling and I do the gesture, you know I'm joking. But if I'm deadpan, Steven, you're an asshole.
It's a
completely different thing. Fish. And that's the problem with words, is we don't get that inflection. You know, we don't get that. Like, I'm a manager at work, and so I have to, when I send out emails, I get one of my guys to read it before I send it, just to make sure, you know, I'm not saying something I shouldn't be saying.
Likewise, I've been a manager in the past. I was middle management in a multinational company. You can't just simply send out a message without.
There's repercussions.
Yeah,
and people can't read inflection, I guess, is the main point of it. So, the one thing I will say is I've been reading CNS, and I love the tone that it's written in. It's a factual tone that, as you read it, it's coming across almost like an encyclopedia, but not as dry. There is a little bit of humor in there. There's a little bit of intent that this is on somewhat of the fantastical side. But I love the way that the information is presented, the presentation and the layout. The bottom line is, guys, if you don't own this book, go out and buy it. If nothing else, it's a great historical reference, for not only for RPGs, but for actual history. A lot of it is, very accurate, correct?
Correct, yeah. One of the examples we have is the weapons. All of the weapon weights and lengths were provided to us by the Royal Armouries in Leeds in the UK.
You can't get more historical than that.
No, I sent them a list, and I actually had said, we've wanted an excuse to measure and weigh all the weapons in our stores, and they went through, and they actually sent me the list back with weights in grams and lengths in millimeters. And they put as a footnote, although we don't actually have an Orc and Goblin scimitar in the collection, we made our best guesstimate.
Right. Yeah. Here's an actual Tulwar, and that's probably what an Orc sword would look like. So we're gonna go with this. You know? So it's fantastic, the amount of historical correctness is in the game. And for people that don't know that, I think that's our hobby, this hobby, role playing games, started from historical miniatures and historical reenactments. So to kind of give back to that, come full circle, I think is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it all it all comes down to what access to historical records you actually have. There's no way, for example, I would consider writing information about the American Civil War. Although I've got 2 or 3 sets of war game rules for it, I don't have access to the actual records that you have.
Right.
In retrospect, I can walk down the road to our local archives and look at a papal bull that goes back to 1138.
Right, literally.
Yeah,
I've seen some of the pictures from you walking around that you've posted, and he's not joking, folks. He's not. He lives. I have no doubt they burned witches there at one point. I have no doubt.
Oh no, witches weren't burnt in the UK; they were hung.
Oh. How do you know she's a witch? They float! Yes. But everybody floats. Then they're a witch! Yeah, that's awesome, sir. That's Oh, you broke me.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on the 1 hour mark, so I wanted to make sure that we're okay.
Yeah, I'm still fine.
Anything you want to plug? So you did say something else is coming out as a Kickstarter. What was that?
Yeah, we've got a number. No, we've got probably over 30 ideas of stuff that we want to bring out. Yeah. Certainly, the next product that will be ready is a European folklore bestiary, and that should be ready to go in a couple of months.
Okay. Page count by chance?
Sorry?
Do you have a page count?
Possibly 200.
Yeah. I'm just shooting. And when you say European bestiary, you mean like Europe, like fairies and boggards and all that stuff from the European folklore?
Yeah, European folklore, yes.
Okay.
From Ireland, from Germany, from France.
So the Sidey and all the fun stuff. Fairy, what are they? Nymphs and
yeah, there's a few unusual ones in there.
I can't wait. Is it going to be hardback? Do we know? Is that going to be a stretch goal, maybe?
No, I've made a decision that following looking at some of the costings and that, I see no point in going softback going forward. It makes more sense for us to just have hardback.
I'm so happy this is hardback. I really am. I got the Dwarves one from, I think it's 3rd or 4th edition, and it's softback.
It's 4th edition.
4th edition, and it's soft. And I love Dwarves. I'm a huge Dwarf fan. I wish it would have been hardback. Really, really wish I could have gotten it hardback. Because this is, it just sits on the shelf. You can see the name real nice. The softbacks are nice, don't get me wrong, and I'm glad I have it in my collection. But I personally am a hardback guy. Any opportunity I get to get a book hardback, I'll get it hardback every time. So and it makes it easier to store them as well. So, well, man, I am giddy. I can't wait for the Kickstarter to launch. As I'm sure you know, but I'll say it just so you have clarification. Please post all your upcoming Kickstarters on Mr. Mean Speaks. You're more than welcome to. I will help promote whatever I can.
We did run a poll on our Facebook group to give the fans the opportunity to say what they would like to see.
Ooh. And the bestiary won?
Well, the bestiary is top of the list, but that was going to be the next one out anyway.
No, well, you need adversaries, right? You got to have something.
Yeah. The next popular one is the early Feudal source book, which Andy Staples is writing.
Right.
There's a whole host of other stuff that we've put on there. I think there's about 18 potential products on there. One of our old licensees, Mystic Station Designs, which is no longer in existence, Alison Case, who was one of the partners, she has got a lot of the old material. One of the things we're talking about, which you might like, as you like playing mages, is collating all of the spells that they created for fourth edition, updating them for fifth, but we're going to collate them into a single book for each method of magic. So basic magic, fire, plant magic, summoning, and look at bringing those out as individual digest-sized books. Which may or may not have faux leather covers.
The nerd in me is just jumping for joy.
Yeah, I just like the idea of being at a convention and you're running a CNS game.
It's got a stack of these little leather books.
So somebody turns up as a mage and they just put these stack of books.
And remember back in
that's my grimoires.
Back in the 40s, you would have basically the belt that you would put around your book, your stack of books. Remember?
Yeah.
So how apropos would that be?
Having one of those is a stretch goal.
And it could say, like, maybe in Latin, it can say, something for magic in Latin or something like that. That would.
Yeah.
We should talk. We should talk. We can do so much. We're crazy.
Yes.
Well, sir, I do have to wrap it up. We're coming up on we're actually over our hour mark because we took a couple of minutes to straighten out all the recordings and stuff. But I want to thank you so much for coming on the channel and recording with me. It is truly an honor and a pleasure to have you. I hope we can do it again, maybe after my review of Land of the Rising Sun, which I'm eagerly awaiting my copy. And, if you were to accidentally slip an autograph in there, I wouldn't be upset with you. I'm just going to tell you that, just so you know. I don't expect anything, sir. Just the fact of getting the book. I've already flipped through the PDF, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So I love all your hard work, and your organizational skills are phenomenal. You run if anybody out there, if any of the Meanie Army gets a chance to play in a game with this young man, please, by all means, jump on it. You will not be disappointed. He runs a fun game. Is there anything else you want to say real quick before we wrap it up?
Hopefully at some point I might actually get over to the States.
I got a cot in the back room in the basement. It's a little watery and it's drafty and cold, but you'll be fine. You can come on over.
Yeah, it's just like Britain.
Just there you go. It's always raining. It's always gloomy, right?
Yes.
Well, I'm in northern Minnesota, so it's always frozen.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, you have your. Don't you have a Discord channel?
We do have a Discord channel for CNS, and surprisingly, it's starting to get people joining it.
Okay, please.
I'm going to look at spending more time on it.
If you don't mind, I would ask you to send me I have it, but it's easier for me to cut and paste it into the show notes. Send me a Britannia Games link so that people can find your stuff, and send me an unlimited invite to Discord. I'm sure you know how to do that.
Yeah.
And put those in the chat here with me, and then I'll add those to the video. This will be uploaded tomorrow morning, first thing in the morning. It'll render tonight, and it'll be uploaded first thing in the morning. So that way people can find your stuff. Discord is becoming a wonderful medium to play games. I'm playing a game tonight of Low Life 2090 with some of my Discord members, so I'm very excited. As always, sir, it is just a pleasure and a joy to chat with you, and I can't wait till we do it again. We will definitely do it when Land of the Rising Sun hits our shores, when the sun sets on us. And so everyone out there in YouTube land, thank you for watching. Thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. Mr. Stephen S. Turner, thank you, sir. The time has been wonderful. Everybody, thanks a lot for watching, and as always, peace and hair grease, and remember, be nice.